deep questions, 90% of the answers are in Mesilat Yesharim. And 90% of the questions in halacha are in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. So the message we want to leave with this class today is buy yourself 2 books. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, which is what to do, and the Mesilat Yesharim, which is why you do it and how to develop your character, how to get close to God. We'll talk about what it talks about. But before we start, I want to just share something about where we are sitting today. We're sitting in the school, it's called Machon Meir, which is the school that is inspired by the great spiritual leader, Rabbi Avraham Yitzchak HaKohen Kook, and his son, Rav Tzvi Yehuda, which was his right-hand man, his follower, his continuation. When Rav Kook came to Israel 100 years ago, he said to himself, what do I need? Can I get a Mesilat Yesharim, by the way? A book would be good. Is there an extra one? Okay. Well, when he came to Israel 100 years ago, the Rav Kook got off the boat and he said, what is needed for the Jewish people here in Israel? Yeshivas, there's many yeshivas. Yeah. They will grow, they will expand. Why do I need to build a new yeshiva? Merkaz Harav. He said, the reason I have to build a yeshiva is because all the yeshivas are studying what to do. They're not studying why to do it. And I want to build a yeshiva that not only teaches what to do, but teaches why you do it, teaches a whole curriculum called Emunah. What is unique about this yeshiva, which is different than every other yeshiva, is 90% is exactly the same. But we have a 10% track, which is called Emunah. And why 10%? Rav Kook said, you need to learn Emunah as the ratio to the head to the body. Emunah is things that you need to live, you need to soak it in, you need to digest it. You can't just sit all day and learn Emunah the way I do, and my rabbi screams at me that you have a Yetzer Hara for learning Emunah. I said, I wish that should be my worst Yetzer Hara. But you need to have, the most of the learning has to be Gemara. That's most of the learning that we're supposed to learn, is learning Gemara, but there's something that overrides that rule, and that is, En adam lomed Torah, ela b'makom shelibo chafetz. Learning the subject that excites you, learning the subject that makes you want to learn more, overrides the importance of studying the track, which is Gemara. And that's one thing Rav Kook changed here in the yeshivot. He said, I'm getting rid of there was something called the Mashgiach. Mashgiach was like a very tough spiritual leader, was there to scare you, to keep you in line, and was called a Mashgiach. He got rid of that. He said, now it's a new generation. We need Torah me'ahava, ahava ve'emunah. We need love. We need to teach in a different way. And the second thing he said was, study the rule. Study what your heart desires is more important than studying what the curriculum of the program of the learning. There was one, how do you say, Yotzei min haklal?
Went out from the...
There was one...
went astray?
There was one, how do you say... one exception to the law. Exception to the rule.
This context.
What was the exception? Rav Tzvi Yehuda came into the yeshiva one day, Merkaz Harav right across the street, and said, I know in this yeshiva everybody could study whatever they want when they want. But there's one thing that I am now asking everybody to study. I don't care if you like it or don't like it. 15 minutes a day, between 1 and 1:15, study Shmirat HaLashon. 3 days go by, and the sister of the Tzvi Yehuda was taking care of him when he was sick and old. She comes to the to the rabbis in yeshiva and says, what happened? For 3 days, the rabbi's barely eating. He's fasting. What happened? Try to think back. What happened 3 days ago? Well, he made an announcement. He wants everyone to study Shmirat HaLashon. Did everyone do it? No. She went back to him and said, is the reason you're fasting because you went and you asked them to study Shmirat HaLashon? So write that down on your list. The third book to buy is Shmirat HaLashon, the laws of the speech. And the Rav Dov Bigon teaches it here every day between 1 and 1:15, right? If I'm not mistaken. And I'm getting off topic, but this is like a wild class. I could talk whatever I want. We're going to learn Mesilat Yesharim, and the goal is to get you guys to want to learn Mesilat Yesharim. So, but I'm just going to throw this side story in since we're here talking in Machon Meir. We have Rav Dov Bigon. My rabbi, Shlomo Aviner, said that the first time he came to Merkaz HaRav was after the Yom Kippur War. He was a soldier, and he sat at lunch. It was time for lunch, so he was sitting here, and there was two guys sitting next to each other. One guy says to the other guy, hey, I have a story to tell you about this guy, this friend of ours. I really don't want to hear Lashon Hara, says quietly and respectfully the man sitting here. No, I really have to tell you the most amazing story about this guy and what he did. You'll laugh so hard. I appreciate it. I do not want to hear Lashon Hara. This kept going on. And the guy sitting across said, you will not force me to hear Lashon Hara. I don't want to hear Lashon Hara. Who was that guy who kept saying, I don't want to hear Lashon Hara? Rav Dov Bigon. And Rav Shlomo Aviner, my rabbi, said, the first class I got coming to Machon Meir was about learning from this incredible man, Rav Dov Bigon, teaching about the importance of not speaking bad, not hearing bad things about other people. That being said, I'm a fundraiser, and you try to get to rich people is very hard. So one time I was going to meet a very, very wealthy man, and a friend of mine who was guiding me on the meeting how to do it, he said, let me explain to you, this guy doesn't have time. And you have one chance to give your pitch. You have only an elevator pitch. You have 3 minutes to give him 3 reasons why he should support you. I was fundraising for the yeshiva of Haramor. Heart's beating. And this is my chance. 3 minutes, 3 reasons why I should support you. I came in. I said, the 3 reasons are that you should support us is because of the Torah, because of Israel, and because of Am Yisrael. The Rav Kook made 3 revolutionary ideas. It revolutionized 3 ideas when it comes to these 3 subjects. In Torah, we said Torah, Israel, and Am Yisrael. In Israel, he said now is the time to build the state, the country, the government, the army, the finance, to conquer, to build the state. In the Jewish people, he revolutionized the idea. It was said in the past, but he really revolutionized it. The idea of Skulat Israel, that every Jew is loved, is special, has this unique gift of closeness to God. And in Torah, building the track of Emunah, that it's not enough to learn everything we've studied in the past. We need to have a whole track. So this wealthy guy said, stop right there. Your 3 minutes are up. Go home. Write me a 3-page essay of the connecting thread between all the books of Emunah in the subject of the track of Emunah. If you do that well, I will give you $1 million. Okay? Anyway, why am I bringing this story? So Rav Kook revolutionized the track of Emunah, and the first book that we study in this track is Mesilat Yesharim. Mesilat Yesharim there was a story of a great rabbi who took a sabbatical year off and came here to the yeshiva of Merkaz Harav. And he came to a student and said, I took a sabbatical. What book should I start learning? He said, Mesilat Yesharim. He came back. He studied the book, came back and said, now what do I study? Mesilat Yesharim. He was already a big Talmud Chacham. He came back again. What should I study now? Mesilat Yesharim. 4 times Mesilat Yesharim. Finally he said, okay, now you can move on to the next book. Kuzari. So, I had the great honor of teaching this book, Mesilat Yesharim, here at the Machon for 18 years. And after 18 years, a year ago I think, we started learning Kuzari. What took him 4 times the book, I needed 18 years. Not that I even know anything about this book. I haven't even begun to scratch the surface. And we only studied the first chapter till the 12th chapter. And there's 36 chapters. But, so what's this book all about? What's so special about it? Number one, it's the number 1 bestseller after the Bible. Wow. If you came into the store and you said, tell me what's the number 1 book after the Bible? Mesilat Yesharim. That's pretty big. And just so you should understand, the Gaon of Vilna said that when this book came out, he got the book, he put on his Shabbos clothes. He went a far distance to go get it, and he paid a huge amount of money. And he studied it 101 times the first day he got it. And then he studied it every single day of his life. The Gaon of Vilna. And he said, if I could, I would go and sit before the feet of the Ramchal and have him teach me after reading this book. I don't know if we understand who the Gaon of Vilna is. By the way, and he also said after Mesilat Yesharim to study the book Kuzari. I'm giving a plug for my class tomorrow. And he said study Kuzari because Ikar Emunat Israel v'Torat Tluim bo. The foundations of the Jewish faith and the Torah depend on this book. And he said everyone should study it and on. So, to understand what this book is, the Mesilat Yesharim, we need to understand that God places in this world every so often. It's very rare. But there's these souls that are meteors that come beaming into this world. And they're not from this world. And they give us food for generations. Who are these souls? They come, like we said, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Arizal, the Baal Shem Tov, the Ramchal, the Gaon of Vilna, the Rambam. I'm not going in order, but the Rambam, for example, he gave us food for. He wrote the halachas of Mashiach and like building the state and like things that you can't imagine. How far does he see? And the Mesilat Yesharim is one of those souls that were so big and great, nobody even could contain the greatness. They had, if you have to look online, I forgot, but there's these conditions to be in the yeshiva of the Ramchal. There was conditions. One of the conditions were, none of your learning goes for your own personal gain. There was like conditions. You have to sign a document. Everything you learn goes to the Jewish people. It's not for you. Anyway, so what is so special about this book, Mesilat Yesharim, that it's accepted by every single group around Judaism? In all the yeshivas, from Hasidic to Misnagdim, everybody studies this book. Some people say in the name of Chabad that they said not to learn it. I don't know if that's true. But I don't think that's true. But some people say that. But still, it's widely accepted throughout the whole Jewish community. And like we said, it's the most studied book. The Rav Kook was he made a little change that unfortunately, some yeshivot study it as an emotional practice, as like a musar shmuz. Let's get excited emotionally. And Rav Kook said, no, this has to be studied intellectually. You want to get excited? Go ahead, but that's not the direction for the way to study it. So let's go back to what is this book all about? Like, what's so exciting about it? In order for us to have freedom of choice, there has to be a balance. For example, when you had prophecy, you had idol worshippers. And if the prophet would stand here, give a speech, and the idol worshipper would stand there, give a speech, you wouldn't know which one to choose. By the way, also, many people like to have discussions between different groups. It's not a very healthy thing. We don't recommend it. Because when you meet with the people that have other opinions that are dangerous, they could easily sway you, they could easily convince you. They have a whole way of thinking, they're very intellectual, they have proofs, they have facts, they have this, they have that. It's confusing, and as someone who's not very strong in who they are and understands their belief and their stance, can be pulled another way. But that's the fact. There's freedom of choice, and you had a choice to choose. You went after the prophet, or you went after the idol worshiper. And great people fell to idol worshipping. The Gemara says a story, I don't want to go into it, we don't have a lot of time, about Menashe the king, who was a righteous person, and he fell. And he said, don't judge me. The desire, the power was so great. So 2,000 years ago, God decided, that's it. Temples being destroyed, we're getting rid of prophecy, and we're getting rid of idol worshipping. Everything is going down a level. Today, the highest spiritual level that a person can reach is called Ruach HaKodesh, or Ruach HaTum'ah. You could either draw your spirituality from holiness. Ruach means spirit, which means like wind. It drives you, it pushes you to holiness, or you're pushed to negative. Like we know Bilam, the way he would reach his high levels of spirituality were through acts of all kinds of sexual acts with his animals and things like that, through the impurity forces. So now we went down a level, and a person can choose. You have two choices. You could choose Ruach HaKodesh, or you could choose Ruach HaTum'ah. During 300 years ago, during the time of the Ramchal, there was one of the greatest disasters that ever happened for the Jewish people. And that's the false Messiah, Shabtai Tzvi Yemach Shemo Shem Rashaim Yirkav. The false Messiah, the majority of the Jewish people and the rabbis said he was the Messiah. This was he was charismatic, he was a Kabbalist, he was a prolific writer, talented person. And he said he was the Messiah. And then the word got out that he had a theory that in order to uplift the sparks from the lowest places, he needs to go down to the 49 levels of impurity and to uplift the spark from there, which means he has to sleep with men and with married women and with children. He has to do all kinds of disgusting, immoral behaviors to uplift the sparks from the lowest places. That's why you have to be very careful when you study Kabbalah, and you can get to all kinds of very dangerous understandings. You need guidance, and you need to be ready for it. It's not that you go to the course with Madonna to study Kabbalah, and then she puts out a video of her wearing tefillin. She put out after her Kabbalistic uplifting. She was so inspired that she put on tefillin, in the video not wearing clothes, because obviously you need to uplift the sparks. So this disaster was really, really big. And when the false Messiah arrived to the king of Egypt, Sultan said to him, "Oh, I heard you're the Messiah." "Yes, I am the Messiah." "How do you think the Messiah will function without a head on his shoulders?" "I'm not sure," he said, "but what I am sure is that I need to convert to Islam because I need to uplift the sparks from Islam." "Okay, great, come convert." And they didn't chop his head off. But we understood exactly the story. That was the end. And then there was a huge breakdown and a very big crisis in the Jewish world. And the rabbis began a witch hunt to find who are the students of the Shabtai Tzvi and who are Kabbalists that are, teaching things that are wrong. And anyway, they weren't sure. And anyone who was young, the Ramchal was only 35 years old. And he wrote already 80 books on Kabbalah. And he was also an astronomist, and he also was a poet, and he wrote plays, and he was one of these 35 years old. And they went to the authorities. He was living in Italy, and they said, "There's this rabbi who's starting a rebellion against you," and they put him in prison. He was in prison, and they came and they said, "Look, we don't know whether you're good or you're bad, but we do not allow anybody to study Kabbalah or teach Kabbalah anymore. Sign the document that you will not teach any Kabbalah ever again, and we'll burn your books, and then we'll get you out of here." Okay.
It wasn't exactly like that because
Because what?
because he did
What?
when he came there to Israel.
Wait, you're jumping the gun. The Ramchal signed, "I will no longer teach Kabbalah." Signed the document, they got him out. His rabbi, Rabbi Yeshua Basan, said to him, "How can you write that? Your calling in life is to teach Kabbalah, to write Kabbalah. This is who you are." He wrote, by the way, his 150 chapters of a new Tehillim he wrote. He wrote a new Tehillim, his own Tehillim. And many, many other things. He wrote a new Zohar. He wrote all kinds of things. Anyway, he said, "How could you sign this?" And he said, "Rabbi, you want me to what do you want me to do? Die in prison or sign this? And always read the fine print. I signed a document that says, as long as I'm in exile, I will not teach Kabbalah. And I'm on my way to Israel. Goodbye." And he packed up and he went from Israel to Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, he had a burning desire to write, to share. And he said, "What do the Jewish people need right now? They need a book that explains to you who is the person, what is the personality, what is the steps that a person takes to become Ruach HaKodesh." Because here they thought that evil person had Ruach HaKodesh, but he didn't. So they need a book where they know this is the guidebook that tells you how to have Ruach HaKodesh. How do I know that I'm connected to the right person? Because everyone needs to be connected to somebody that has Ruach HaKodesh. That's the way you get inspiration. That's the way you connect to God through the tzaddik. Of course, again, we do it through the Torah, but we have the guidance of the rabbis. We don't worship the rabbis, but we the importance of the connection to what's a Talmid Chacham. A Talmid Chacham is a student of a wise person. There is no such a thing as a rabbi who comes on his own and says, "Hi, I have what to share." Who's your rabbi? Where do you get it from? You can't just come and share things. You have to know. It's called Torah sheyesh la beit av. The Torah has to have a father. Who's your father? Who's your spiritual father? Who's your rabbi? Okay, great. I can learn from you. We have to be very careful. So you go on the internet. "Oh, I want to learn something about Purim," and you just go and learn something. Whoa. Little, very, how do you say, negative messages that you're not aware of can go into your brain. You have to know who you are learning from, who is the personality, who is the person, where is he teaching from, where is he drawing his information from, his inspiration from. Moshe Rabbeinu kibbutz Torah Sinai and gave it to Yeshua, and it goes down, 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 and it needs to be, Torah has to have a Beit Av. So the book was written, and the book, now we only have 20 minutes, but we'll explain at least a little bit of the introduction. A little bit of introduction. And like we said, this is a book you need to study every day, preferably with a chavruta, because all of the Torah is meant to be studied with a chavruta. V'dibarta bam, you speak the Torah, and you don't speak to yourself, you speak to someone. If you are speaking to yourself, you're reading it alone, then you're supposed to actually have the words come out, because it's important to not just read with your eyes. Kol atzmotai tomar na Hashem. So let's talk a little bit about introduction. We have 20 minutes. I hope that this class will inspire you to want to learn this book. This book is based on the pasuk from the Parshat Ekev in the book of Dvarim. Moshe Rabbeinu turns to the Jewish people and says, "What ma Hashem Elohecha shoel mimach?" Every once in a while, it's very important to stop, ask yourself, what does God want from me? Sometimes because of all the trees, you don't see the forest, to see the big picture and remember, what does God want from me? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, God wants from you 5 things. Who wants to try and shoot for the stars? If Moshe Rabbeinu would ask you, what does God want from you? What would you answer? Oh, so you got already number 5. Beautiful. What's your name? Next.
You live in you love your neighbor like you?
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
Not exactly. No, I don't know how to say it. Maybe you would say, someone said yira. That's number 1. What you said, love your neighbor as yourself, I think that comes into the category of tikkun midot. Okay, that means, how could you love other people? You have to really work on your character. You have to develop your character. You have to become a better person, dealing with people, dealing with personalities. It's like, wow, loving your neighbor as yourself is
Be humble.
to be humble. Right, exactly. Everything that comes in the category of tikkun midot. Number 1, who said yira? Okay, that's number 1. Yira is number 1, which means admiration. You have to have an admiration for God. How do you reach that? Okay, this book comes to teach you, number 1, how to have yira. Number 2 is tikkun midot. How do you have yira? You have to start developing your character. You have to become a balanced person. You have to work on your character. You have to develop yourself. You have to become balanced. You can't be too angry. You can't be too sad. You can't be too everything has to be in balance. What else? What's number 3?
Kindness.
Kindness. Kindness, I think, would be also part of tikkun midot.
Yeah.
Would be kindness. Come on. Oh, who said that? You're on fire today. Yosef. Right? Ahava. Yira is admiration. You think to yourself, wait, I'm sitting here playing my Game Boy, and God, the creator of the world, is involved in taking care of all of the creation. How can I become also a person that's not just looking at my screen or looking at my selfishness? How can I be expand my understandings to see other people. Right? So as soon as you have this admiration, you say, I want to be part of that. That creates you this desire to develop your character. And love is always an outcome of a process. I saw the yira, I experienced, I wanted to be part of that. I started developing my character. Suddenly I felt love. How could God command you to love Him? Is when you learn about God, when you learn about something, when you're involved in something. Love is an outcome of a process of work and effort. And the last one here is dvekut. Nice. That's what we call bechol levavcha. In other words, your intentions. How do I do things with the right intentions? That's already a high level. To do things with intentions, to have the kavanah, the thought, the understanding, it's a very high level. To not just be, paying a tax, to be really present and making a choice. So this is what I'm showing you. If you look in page, this is the end of the introduction. Page number 5. Right? Okay. ואתה ישראל מה השם ישועה ממך. כאן כלל כל חלקי השלמות העבודה. Here it is. It tells you exactly how to reach these levels. What is it? היראה, ההליכה בדרכיו. Page number 5. Page number 5, where it says היראה, ההליכה בדרכיו. It says, we said, awe of God, admiration of God, walking God's path, love, shlemut halev, doing with all your heart, and shmirat kol mitzvot. So now, this book that we have here only talks about these 4. Shmirat HaMitzvot is another track we call Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, or Shulchan Aruch. This book teaches you how to have yira, how to have tikkun midot, how to have love, and how to do it b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha. Okay? Now we have 10 minutes left, yeah, till 1:10. I'm drawing here. This is the world. This is Israel. This is Jerusalem. And this is the street that we're walking on. Okay? This is like the world, okay? You see the world. If you ever saw Google Earth, you look at the world and you write in, take me to Israel. It takes you into Israel, okay? Then you say, take me to Jerusalem. Okay? And then you say, take me to Machon Meir. And you see yourself on the street waving hello. This is the way the Torah is broken down. It says God looked in the Torah, Ebit b'Torah ubara alma. God looked in the Torah and created the world. When you have a pasuk, that is what's called very potent. That is encapsulates in that one pasuk. There are worlds and worlds and worlds of lessons and teachings. Torah is very precise, very to the point. Sometimes huge things can be studied from one little word. That's what we call the Torah. Then you have the Mishnah. The Mishnah is going into the country. The Mishnah explains the Torah. But you're going into the country. Then you have the Gemara is going into the city. And then you have the halacha, the word halacha. You say every day, al tikri halachot, ela halichot. Don't say halacha, say how to walk. When you put your foot down to take your step, The Torah tells you, yes, you can take a left, you can take a right, you can go walk there. It tells you exactly how to walk on the street. So, when we have this pasuk, the Ramchal tells us that this pasuk, I don't know how I'm going to do this in 5 minutes, but this pasuk has a Mishnah. What's the Mishnah? The Mishnah is for Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair was, I could talk about him for an hour. He was the one that he gave the Breita, which is like the Mishnah, to explain now the Torah, right? This sounds like all or nothing. I have to have these 4 things. How do I get there? How do I break it down? Right? We know the story of the man that came to Hill and said, teach me the whole Torah. Love your neighbor as yourself. But sorry, that's what you don't love done to you, don't do others. And now what? But now go and learn how to do that. It's not just a statement. You have to now learn it, study it. It's a science to know how not to do to others what you want done to you. So this is the world. Okay, we're looking at the world here. The Mishnah is Rav Pinchas ben Yair. And by the way, I'll just throw it out because we'll have lots of hostages. Rav Pinchas ben Yair, he was famous for his efforts in releasing hostages. He used to travel around the world saving hostages in all kinds of ways, whatever he could do. And really, he's Pinchas ben Yair. He was able to get people to see the light. He's taking us out of our prison. We're all in prison. What is the prison? The prison of our selfishness. We're all in prison. It's so, Rav Kook says, for a person to be able to see that there's actually another person, thinks differently, sees differently, understands the world differently, a person has to kill himself. Or not kill himself, has to go through a process of, I've been doing it in therapy for 30 years with my wife. To acknowledge there's actually another person, sees the world differently, and I have to be able to understand that she sees the world differently. We have a hard time also with our enemies. We think if we break down their houses, that's going to destroy them. Because for us, our house, I took a mortgage, I built it, or we killed them. That's the worst thing could happen. No, they want to die. They go to the 70 versions. Their house being broken down. Who do they care? It will be rebuilt. The land. If you conquer their land, you destroyed them. That's their battle. That's their deterrence. Anyway, that's a side note. We're not going into politics right now. But Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair releases us out of prison. How do we get out of our prison? So you have here 4 steps. Says Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, and I'm reading here in the book. Look at the introduction. Page number 7. Wait, sorry. Page number 6. Okay. This is here. Mashu Babraita. Amar Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Okay, the last piece of the book in the page here. Torah Meviah Lidei Zehirut. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You want to reach these 4 steps? You have to take 9 steps. Zehirut, Zrizut, Nekiyut. Okay, so there's 9 steps. You want to reach the 4 steps, you break it down to 9 steps. The 9 steps are broken down to 3 groups. The 3 groups are broken down to, again, like we said, the Ramchal is the master of systematic, organized program. Everything is subject, sub-subject. Break it down to sections, to steps, and to a program, how to grow and how to develop. In Israel, everyone has to do the army. 90% go in to become all kinds of different jobs in the army. You need drivers, you need cooks, you need everything. 10% go to become combat soldiers. Not everyone's built to be fighters. 1% become the commander. There are 3 goals in the Mesilat Yesharim. So suddenly it's not just 4 things, there's 3 steps. If you do the first group of 3, you become a tzaddik. If you do the second group of 3, you become a chassid. A tzaddik is what's expected from everybody. It means that you do what is expected of you. A chassid is someone that goes above the letter of the law. You don't have to. Your father comes on and says, I'm really thirsty. You say, he's thirsty. He must also want to eat. So you bring him food, but you don't have to. You ask for water. Our goal, and then the last level is kadosh, which is someone who built the vessel. He built himself. He has developed himself to the place that he has the tools to contain the Ruach HaKodesh that God may decide or may not decide if He wants to give it to you, but you've done what you had to do. Obviously, Ruach HaKodesh is a gift from above. But these are the steps. We study only the first 3 because we all want to become a tzaddik. When I was 3 years old, I went to meet this tzaddik named Amshin of a Rabbi. And he asked me, my brother was 5, I was 3. He said, my brother, what do you want to be? And he said, I want to be a pilot in the army. Oh, really? But there may not be a army then. We might have, might have Mashiach. Then he asked me, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be a tzaddik. At the age of 3, I said, I want to be a tzaddik. Till today, I have that same goal. 1, 2, 3. I would like to, this is what's expected from every person, to do what's expected of you, to serve God with a full heart. And again, unfortunately, we don't have time to go in deeper, but I appreciate you guys letting me have this opportunity. I told the Rav Lissman, because I changed to Kuzari, I said, whenever you have an open class, let me in. Let me just teach Mesilat Yesharim, because, or not teach, learn together. Because this is really such an important book that we need to always be reviewing and going over and understanding. And if we get a chance to do another class, we'll go in deeper explaining it. But the idea is to keep learning. Thank you.